It was a surreal spectacle. Thousands of Allied troops stormed the battle-scarred sands of Sword Beach, greeted by a hail of lead and fire. At the forefront, Lord Lovat led the 1st Special Service Brigade ashore, clad in a battle dress and the kilt of Clan Cameron, his piper, Bill Millin, at his side. As the waves lapped against his knees and bullets whizzed past, Bill Millin defied the chaos, playing Highland Laddie in The Road to the Isles. The brigade instantly became a lightning rod for both the Allies and Germans. Not all Allies were thrilled, with one sergeant screaming at Bill Millin, quote, "You mad bastard, you're attracting all the German attention." The defenders of the Atlantic Wall swung their artillery, desperate to obliterate Lovat and his men. Yet every Allied soldier who witnessed this defiant act found a surge of renewed morale. Close-quarters combat turned savage. Lord Lovat proved his prowess went beyond theatrics, crushing German soldiers in hand-to-hand combat and sniping others using his Scottish hunting rifle. Amid the largest invasion in human history, however, his luck ran thin. Shrapnel from an artillery shell tore into Lovat, leaving him badly wounded on the dirt. But just as he was about to meet his end, salvation came from where he least expected it. 80 years ago, Lord Lovat and his fearless commandos shaped the course of history on the beaches of Normandy. Now it's your turn to make history in World of Warships. Choose from a fleet of over 500 detailed warships, each designed based on historical blueprints and offering unique technical advantages, and navigate through battle scenarios that shaped World War II, making strategic decisions that will test your skills as a naval commander. You won't want to miss World of Warships' special D-Day 80th anniversary event. Participate in exclusive June 6, 1944 missions and lead your fleet in massive 12v12 battles, capturing the intensity and strategy of the Normandy landings. With regular updates and new content, including special anniversary ships and missions, and special patches, skins, and customizations, World of Warships keeps history alive and keeps you and your friends engaged for hours on end. Plus, it's available on multiple consoles. Use the invite code D-Day80th to start your naval journey with 200 doubloons, 7 days of premium time, and 1 million credits, and unlock famous ships like the Phoenix, Kuma, Corbett, Dante Alighieri, and Wakeful after just 15 battles. You can also get 3 times special D-Day missions after 9 battles, but only for a limited time. Click the link in the description below and take command in World of Warships, where history's most epic naval conflicts will challenge your strategic prowess. If anyone was destined to make a dramatic entrance on D-Day, it was Simon Fraser. A man of tradition, honor, and defiance, Fraser became the 15th Lord Lovat and chief of Clan Fraser of Lovat in Scotland after his father's passing. As a prominent member of the Scottish aristocracy, Lovat was deeply rooted in Highland traditions and culture, particularly a passion for military dominance. He joined the Territorial Army's Lovat Scouts in the early 1930s and was commissioned as a second lieutenant shortly after. Later, he enlisted in the Scots Guards, a unit of the regular army, and soon showed outstanding leadership abilities. Always seeking greater challenges, Lord Lovat joined the British Commandos right after their formation in 1941. With years of experience and a warrior lineage, he distinguished himself in many commando raids in 1941 and 42. Lovat played a crucial role in early commando operations in Norway, aimed at disrupting German operations and gathering intelligence. One notable operation was the raid on the Lofoten Islands in March 1941. Lovat's commandos successfully destroyed fish oil factories and German military installations, capturing 200 German soldiers and 315 Norwegian collaborators. A year later, Lord Lovat became a pivotal figure in the Allies' preparations for D-Day, shaping strategies years before the event. The young commando was tasked with executing the Dieppe raid, a major Allied attack on the German-occupied port of Dieppe in northern France. The raid was designed to test the feasibility of a large-scale amphibious landing, providing invaluable experience and lessons for future Allied operations, especially the D-Day invasion. Commanding No. 4 Commando, Lovat's objective was to neutralize the Hesse Battery, a heavy German artillery position east of Dieppe. Despite the overall failure of the raid, which saw heavy casualties among Canadian and British forces, Lovat's commandos achieved their mission. They destroyed the battery, a critical move that prevented even greater losses during the main assault on the beach. For his leadership and bravery during this operation, Lovat was awarded the Distinguished Service Order. Lovat demonstrated the effectiveness of emerging commando tactics and cemented his status as a British war hero. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill famously remarked that he was, quote, the handsomest man who ever cut a throat. Yet his greatest exploits were still on the horizon. Although led by Lord Lovat, one of the wildest and most iconic scenes of D-Day would not have been possible without the man who would become the Mad Piper of Sword Beach. When World War II broke out in September 1939, a young Glasgow kid named Bill Millin joined the Territorial Army and became a member of the Highland Light Infantry's 7th Battalion Pipe Band. As for most members of Scottish regiments, the bagpipe held deep symbolic and cultural meaning for Bill and his fellow recruits. The instrument had been used for centuries as a symbol of the martial spirit of the Highland regiments. It signaled charges, coordinated movements, and celebrated victories. The bagpipe's distinctive sound was associated with the bravery and fighting spirit of Highland soldiers, serving as a reminder of their formidable reputation in warfare. However, Bill and his bagpipes had their sights set higher. In 1941, he volunteered for the newly formed British Commandos. While completing intense military training in Achnacarry, the commando base located north of Fort William in the untamed northwest Highlands of Scotland, Bill Millin got to know Lord Lovat. Millin declined Lovat's invitation to become his batman, a type of orderly that accompanied British officers. Lovat, on the other hand, accepted Millin's offer to be his personal piper. Following heavy casualties on the Western Front during World War I, the War Office forbade bagpipers from rallying soldiers to battle, but Lovat, who came from a long family of Scottish warriors, had other ideas. He explained to Millin, quote, but that's the English War Office. You and I are both Scottish, and that doesn't apply. To his supporters, Lord Lovat's decision to land on Sword Beach during D-Day in a kilt and accompanied by a bagpiper was driven by a mix of tradition, morale-boosting, and personal defiance of military conventions. To his detractors, he was just a flamboyant, rich eccentric seeking attention. Whatever their opinions, his actions would speak for themselves that day. The famous scene began at 8:40 a.m. when the 1st Special Service Brigade commandos landed under blistering fire on Sword Beach. Among these often overlooked heroes was Cliff Morris, a young soldier in 6th Commando, who would later take part in the race to Benuvie Bridge, later renamed Pegasus Bridge. He was horrified by the sight of the bodies of those who had landed before him. Lord Lovat was landing close to Morris, who jumped off the craft first. Bill Millin and the rest joined him in the frigid water. Bill's kilt floated around him as the coldness struck. Immediately, they were met by heavy shelling and machine gun fire. Lovat's orders cut through the sounds of battle, quote, "Play again, Highland Laddie and the Road to the Isles." There were bodies everywhere. The air was thick with smoke, screams, and ear-splitting blasts. As they reached the shore, German snipers zeroed in on them immediately. Bill later recalled the flash as the sniper fired. While everyone else was flat on their stomachs, Lovat was on one knee, keeping low to avoid getting hit. Bill, captivated by the sound of his pipe, remained standing. Landing alongside Lovat that morning was Stan "Scotty" Scott, a tough-as-nails 20-year-old from Tottenham in North London. Scott had a knack for being first in everything, especially in combat, and was determined that his 3rd troop would be the first to reach Benuvie Bridge. Armed with folding bicycles, which they lugged across the beach, along with their other gear, Scott rallied his toughest men and launched a headlong dash for the bridge. Lovat's commandos were fiercely competitive, each eager to be the first to claim the Benuvie Bridge. Cliff Morris and his comrades from 6th Commando reached the village of Saint-Aubin-d'Arcnay, less than a mile from the bridge, around 11 a.m. Shortly after, they were joined by Lord Lovat and his piper. Morris was bemused by the unique way Lovat dealt with an enemy sniper blocking their path. Lovat used his Scottish hunting rifle to score a perfect hit from crouching position. He then nonchalantly sent 2 men to retrieve the body as if they were fetching a trophy from the Highland moors. At the bridge itself, John Howard and his beleaguered troops of the Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry, the Ox and Bucks, were under heavy fire from the surrounding German forces. Howard knew his exhausted men couldn't hold out much longer. Quote, "I kept checking my watch constantly. I said to myself under my breath, 'Come on, lads. Where are the bloody commandos?' The answer lay with Stan Scott and his 5 comrades in 3rd Troop, who were relentlessly driving toward the bridge. They reached the village of Benuvie, tantalizingly close to their objective, soon after 11 a.m. Pedaling furiously through the German-held village, they dodged sniper fire, enacting their own version of the Tour de France. As they reached the far end of the village, they spotted one of Howard's beleaguered men. A lone British soldier slumped on the ground, clutching his shattered leg. The encounter was starkly different from the one Lord Lovat would later make famous. In his story, Lovat claimed that he reached Howard's men first, meeting them by calmly saying, quote, "Sorry, I'm a few minutes late," explaining that his commandos had been delayed, reaching the rendezvous point around 1:30 p.m. instead of the planned noon. Here, there was no skirl of the bagpipes and no apologies for being late. The paratrooper scrutinized Scott and questioned his whereabouts in a sharp tone. Scott responded just as bluntly. He then ordered his comrades in 3rd Troop to cycle at high speed toward the nearby bridge. The final 75 yards were the most hazardous of all. Bullets whizzed from all sides, ricocheting and splatting around them. 4 of Scott's men survived the gunfire, but the 5th took a hit as he approached the bridge. Scott recalls, quote, Campbell got clobbered. He got hit through the neck, fell down in one big lump. Him, the bike, and all that. Stan Scott's thrust toward the bridge was nothing short of remarkable, but only a handful of men witnessed it. This allowed Lord Lovat to steal his thunder when he arrived 15 minutes later. After the showman, Lovat created a scene that would be forever remembered by those who saw it. As his troops neared the bridge, he turned to Bill Millin and ordered, quote, Right, Piper, start the pipes again. Despite not having arrived first, and not having been in the most dire moments of the battle, the sight and noise of the main body of commandos reignited confidence in the men who had feared they were doomed. They shouted, cheered, and threw caution to the wind, quote, Now you Jerry bastards, you've got a real fight on your hands. Scott and his men felt cheated of their rightful victory for the rest of their lives. They had been first to the bridge, winning the race through sheer bravado. Scott recalled, quote, There was none of the bagpipe playing and cheering and all that crap. There was simply relief that all but one of his small team had survived. It was a small victory amid a day of many more prominent triumphs. By being the first to reach Banu V Bridge and leading from the front, Stan Scott and his men played a crucial role in securing the eastern perimeter of the Allies' D-Day landing zone. Lord Lovat's luck eventually ran out during the Battle of Breville on June 12th, a few days later. As they saw the 51st Highland Division engage in artillery fire, a stray round missed its mark. The shrapnel tore into Lovat and several other officers, inflicting severe injuries on Lovat and taking the life of Lieutenant Colonel A.P. Johnson, the commanding officer of the 12th Parachute Battalion. In the chaos, the gravely wounded Lovat was left to his fate. Peter Masters, a member of the Jewish commandos known as the X-Troop, saved his life by dragging him to safety amid the turmoil. Ironically, Masters had been one of the men landing beside Lovat during D-Day, deeply inspired by the words the noble warrior had spoken to the fighters that day before landing. Quote, History will tell that in our age, there were giants who walked the earth, and by God, we're going to prove that tomorrow. Even with Masters' intervention, Lovat's wounds were so severe that a priest was called to administer last rites. However, he survived and recovered, though it ended his active participation for the rest of the war. Eccentric, theatrical, and over-the-top as he might have been, there's no doubt that Lord Lovat was a giant who defined heroism in an age filled with heroes. Relive the pivotal battles of D-Day with World of Warships. Command your fleet and dive deep into naval legends on this historic anniversary. Click the link in the description below to start your strategic journey through American naval history and use code D-Day80th for exclusive in-game perks.